Hey everyone, it's James Vagley here. Welcome to another episode of the MBA podcast, and it's episode 189. We're in June, and this month, Ash, we're talking about engaged communities, which, listeners, is one of our 9 core elements for growing a business. So we're excited about this month and this week, well, and today. So how are you, my friend?
Good to see you, James. I'm well. Melbourne winter. We're heading towards the double century of episodes, and they're engaging communities. It's a super important topic in this world of, you know, everyone's connected to everybody on a real-time basis.
It is. It is very important. And this episode, listeners, is called The Message and the Messenger. So it's a little bit cryptic, I think, Ash, this time, but I like being cryptic, as any of our listeners should know. And I guess just to cut right to the chase and give you guys a bit of context about what we're talking about today. So the message and the messenger. So we're talking about engaged communities. This is how you engage with your prospects and clients and partners. Just generally, communities can be online and offline in your business. And obviously, the goal is to get more business, right? And we want to engage in the right way. And when we think about engaging all of those different communities, we want to think about and focus on these two things. Like, what is the message that I'm putting out there to those communities? And then how am I showing up as the messenger? And they're really two key core components of making sure you engage with those communities really well, Ash, because as we know, a lot of mortgage brokers, they're super busy, there's a lot to do, they're growing their businesses and their teams, and there's a lot of stuff to do. And usually what we find happens is brokers will spend all of their time working on files and deals and managing their team and completely drop the ball with newsletters and content and nurturing of their prospects and clients because they're too busy. And that's another problem in itself. But today, I guess we want to talk about the fact that most brokers will default to using a really copy paste, done for you, generic solution just to tick the box of keeping in touch with their clients and prospects. And it really doesn't work very well. And that's where this whole concept of the message and the messenger comes in. What's your perspective? I don't know where you might want to start, but I've got a few things to say on this one because it's a bit of
Yeah.
my
Interested to
pet
explore,
topic.
James. Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's not your fault, listeners. I mean, it's totally understandable to default to a convenient third-party supplied service, whether it's your aggregator or somebody else. And there is some merit in that. Let's be clear. However, I think moving forward, you've got to do more than that. And one of the points I'd like to make, James, is you can't just broadcast a canned message out there expecting it to connect immediately with your desired community. You've actually got to build your community, and you've got to do that by engaging with your community. And I think that's a really important point. And I think this is something I hope everyone takes away is if you send out the same generic third-party supplied product, whether it's a newsletter or the latest RBA data, all of that stuff, it just makes you the same as everybody else because everybody else that's too busy to do it or disorganized to do it will be doing the same thing. So that's fine as a base, perhaps. However, if you want to build your community, you've got to do something more real and consistent and authentic, right? And that takes a bit of time and effort to find your voice. And I think this is something that I would like to add to this discussion. Being a pretty regular user of, say, LinkedIn as a sort of a part networking, part social media platform, but there's lots of other platforms too, right, James? That I'm seeing an emergence of more authentic voices, brokers actually speaking with passion and authenticity about, what it is they're passionate about, rather than just sending out generic third-party prepared content. So I'm excited to see that, but there needs to be a lot more of it.
There does. I like the fact that you mentioned the word authentic because you're right in that there's a lot of merit to a lot of the pre-done systems and programs that brokers are using because, well, something's better than nothing. That's that old adage, right? Something's better than nothing. I know I should do it, so I'll sign up for it. But I always argue, and listeners and you, Ash, would have heard me say this many times, in that just because you're doing something doesn't mean it counts. So, what does that mean? If I'm sending out a newsletter to my customers, if they don't read it, it doesn't count. If it doesn't connect with them, it doesn't really count. Be like this podcast, Ash. If we recorded hundreds of episodes of these podcasts, but no brokers listened because what we said was irrelevant, or we just got a robot to replace us and talk about boring generic stuff every single month, um, so it counts when people actually engage with it. And, you know, I'm kind of sick of seeing people put stuff out there just for the sake of ticking a box, whether it's on social media or email newsletters or just anything. If you're gonna do something, do it right. What's this 1,000-year-old saying about, if you're just going to do something, do it the right way, type of thing?
Oh, we'll go with that. That's close enough, I reckon, James. Look, I think we're probably talking in many ways about social proof, right? And I think social proof has become a really important part of building valuable business, right? That when people are searching, they might have heard about you, they might have been recommended to you, they might just be searching for somebody. More and more and more, the social proof that you have is going to be important to build your brand, to build your culture, to build, as I say, your social reputation in the industry. As we keep saying, if you're just doing the same as everybody, your social proof is the same as everybody, which is better than nothing. But as you say, it doesn't add any value. It doesn't actually engage your specific audience. And there's a lot of stuff we could talk about, really finding your identity and finding your voice. And I think that's where a lot of brokers might struggle. I don't know whether you want to mention that or talk about that, James, but I think a lot of brokers struggle to actually find their own voice. As in, what do I stand for? What is it that I like to talk about? And then to find the confidence, not to mention the time. But I think blaming I'm too busy to do it is a little bit of I'm not going to say a cop out, because that might offend some people, but I think a lot of brokers use that, oh, I'm too busy, got too many other things to do, I'll just pay another service. I think behind that, there's a little bit of fear about actually speaking out in their own voice about what they believe in. So I think, if you're going to go down this path, which we highly recommend, to get this sort of consistent voice out there to attract your community and engage. This is the thing, James, it's got to be engagement, right? One thing we know about social content on whatever platform, whether it's newsletters, emails, social media platforms, is there's a lot of people who see your stuff, right? But you don't know they're there, they're lurking. So to actually bring them out, you really need to be engaging. You really need to be inviting people to comment and connect. And it's one of the things that is a bit of a bugbear of mine, that I see brokers putting content out. Then I see occasionally people commenting on their content and there's no interaction, which says to me they've just got a third party doing it. They haven't got anybody, including themselves, actually teed up to engage. What do we mean by engage? You're actually like walking into a room full of people, right? And you bring up a topic that people are interested in, and then they comment and you just turn your back on them. Can you imagine doing that in real life? Those people would stop talking to you pretty quick, right? So it's the same in this social world, is you can't put good content out there, invite people to connect or engage, and then when they do, you ignore them, right? You've got to engage.
I'm glad you brought. I love that analogy. I thought of the exact same one, of somebody walking into a room and going, "Ash, what do you think about interest rates right now?" And then you tell me something and I just walk off. Like, I don't say I like that, or yes, I agree, or whatever. I think, yeah, a lot of people miss the point that social media is just kind of online networking in a way, and they need to engage. I want to go back to something you mentioned because it's important in this context. You talked about that people don't really know what to do. Brokers don't know what to do. Like, what is the message and how do I show up as a confident messenger? And the answer is relatively simple. The message is just to put yourself out there, right? Be real, be relatable, be consistent, and of course, be confident. And that sounds easier to do. It sounds easier said than done. For example, I think where most brokers go wrong in sitting there going, "Oh, but I don't know what to say, and I don't like getting in front of a camera. I don't know how to write." I think that's kind of. I think the problem is that brokers will look at the news, or they'll look at other corporate newsletters that are going out there, and they're like, I can't write articles like a newspaper. I'm not a news presenter. And they mistakenly think that in order to engage with their communities online and offline, that they have to show up in a certain way. They have to show up with that corporate business hat on. They have to speak and write and be on video in a certain way. And it's completely not true, right? Maybe that's what's holding a lot of people back, in that they don't kind of realize that to be engaging and to have a message and to be a confident messenger, it's actually just being yourself and having something to stand for, not putting on a facade or a mask or a different hat. Maybe that's what's stopping most brokers, Ash.
No doubt. I've got no doubt that's a big piece of it, James. And I hope everyone really sort of picks that up. That the lack of confidence, and you mentioned the confidence, and a lot of the brokers out there are overall confident people, because in this industry you need to have a certain degree of confidence, even whether you're introvert or extrovert or whatever personality or background you've got. You need a certain capacity to talk to people, right? But I think when it comes to putting yourself out there into a media space, which essentially social media is, and any form of media, there's this mistaken belief that you need to put on an image of yourself that you believe people want to see, right? What's actually happened over the last decade, particularly in the last, I would say even 12, 18 months, is a much, much more of a shift towards authenticity and being yourself. This is all tied into why I think a lot of brokers are inconsistent with their content, is because they haven't really connected being themselves with, what they want to say from a business perspective. And I think this is where the two are coming together. They're meshing together, right? You can talk about yourself. The quality of the video. I had someone say this to me the other day, one of our early stage clients we're working with, that was struggling with the quality. When I say the quality of their video, not, the crispness of the picture, more their belief in themselves. Like, oh, I can't stumble. I can't lose my place and start again. What I said to them, and it's what I'll repeat now, is actually the more raw you are, the more authentic and connecting it is for people. This is one of the truths that I really like to sort of ram home a bit, is that the more raw, the more genuine, the more you speak from your own personal experience and life and beliefs, the more it will connect to people, because it's coming from a place inside you that's genuine. Right. And that's what people want, don't you think? In today's world of mass media and spam and fake news and much of a muchness, people want real people. They want real conversations. They don't want another corporate, suit and tie speaking like, someone from the PR department of the bank, right? They want a genuine person. So I think if you can take that out of this, and then find a way to inject that into your content. It's my sort of hope and belief, actually, that a lot of brokers might find their cadence, might find their operating capability, and get more committed to the regularity of contact. Because, this is obviously part of this discussion. This episode is, being real, being consistent, and being confident are all connected, I think, to speaking from a place of your own life and your own experience, not speaking about something in which, like, the RBA stance on interest rates or the economic, like, we've all got something to say on that stuff, but it's not what people want to hear, unless your target audience is, some sort of particularly academic audience, right? That's just my opinion. And I think, as I said, I'm seeing a lot of positive signs with some brokers and their businesses really bringing that realness but it's still only 1 or 2%. There's still a lot of opportunity for brokers to find their voice.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Ash. I like that. And I think it is hard to find authenticity when you're speaking about things that you're probably not passionate about, like talking about the latest RBA announcement or a new policy that, particular lenders come up with, or the same old rhetoric that a lot of brokers talk about. It's not overly exciting. It's not relatable. And I think brokers can get a bit stiff and rigid in their delivery, right? And I think one way to break through that barrier is kind of what you're getting at. It. Let's take the business newsreader hat off. Let's stop thinking selfishly about what I want to say as a mortgage broker about the mortgage market, the property market, interest rates, the economy, saving, and money, and actually think about how all of those things are affecting and can affect the listeners' lives. Like what are the actual outcomes and the real life situations happening because of mortgages and property and wealth. Like you can talk about mortgages and property and wealth from the pulpit, so to speak, Ash, disconnected from people, or you can get down in the audience with them and have the conversation that they're having. It's two completely different things. Like one is, hi everybody. Today the Reserve Bank of Australia increased interest rates by 0.25%. This will cause the average loan to go up by this much in repayments. And if you'd like to have a conversation about saving money, please call me. It's boring. Nobody cares, as opposed to, having the conversation around the fire pit with them from an authentic point of view. Hey, everybody, it's James here. Just heard that the Reserve Bank put rates up again. This means your mortgage is going to get more expensive. This means you're going to have less money in your pocket for food and bills and all that sort of stuff. And I know it's getting harder. And you speak like a real person to them. I think if brokers can find a way to do that and connect with the outcomes and the real life, it's going to change the game for them.
It's the fly on the wall approach. I know you've spoken about this and speak about this quite a bit, James. I think if I was to sum that up, I think most brokers, and I certainly feel this, when we're just chatting to our mate or somebody over a coffee and there's just the two of us, it's really engaging, it's real, there's case studies, you're actually expressing your own personal belief and experience as it relates to an interest rate change. Whereas I think when it comes to content and broadcasting, all of a sudden, most people think, oh, crap, I'm speaking to this big audience of people. I better be someone different. I better be this on-stage speaker. But I think there's very few people who can transition into on-stage speaker and be that person, but also connect with people. There are some, but mostly we're just ordinary people. So I think the skill is to be in that content creation, is to be yourself the same way as you would be speaking to one person. Because we got to remember that, right? When it comes to social media, I mean, you could be speaking on stage at an event, of course, but when it comes to putting out, say, a series of videos, you might do something once or twice a week, right? You are speaking to one person. Your audience is not clumped in one big group in a room watching your content, are they? They're one at a time, on the tram, in their car, at home, in the toilet, wherever they happen to be sitting while they consume your content. It's just them. So you are speaking to one person. Never forget that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think there is a crazy stat about the amount of content consumed on the bathroom, in the toilet. Let's not go there. That is probably a great sort of summary. We could summarize this whole episode, Ash. You could probably say that, speak like you're just speaking to your friends. And it's actually harder than you think, or than most people think. There's so much conditioning around having to be a business and having to stay professional and being a certain way that it's really hard to break out of that and talk to a camera or write and type a social post as if you're talking to a friend. Everybody has it within them. It's just switching that mindset, I think. And I reckon if people went and listened to our first few episodes of this podcast, Ash, you know, those episodes were probably, you know, a little bit different in our delivery. There was probably a bit more structure. We were probably trying to hit certain points and, you know, coming across a certain way, as opposed to just having a topic, having an idea, and then just being real and bantering live. And I reckon if someone listened to the first episode versus this episode, the quality of the content would still be there, but how we engage and how engaging we are as hosts would probably be quite different. How's that for a personal critique?
Yeah,
Go back.
I was just about to say, maybe we do an episode in the future where we do a side-by-side comparison and critique, right? We'll do episode 1 and episode 200, and then we'll have them on screen and we'll do a critique. Maybe we do an open mic episode where people can give us their comments about the, you know, episode 1 versus episode 200. But the message is really, really important, is that no one hits the ground running doing this stuff as their best self, right? It takes some time to nestle in and find your style and your voice, just get started. So, you know, to be real, it's got to come from you. It can't be something that you import from the outside and then try to speak about. I think it's why people don't engage as much as they should, because they don't feel like they're speaking to the real person. They feel like it's a little bit overly prepped. Whereas if you're just yourself, it does connect with people, right? No one's out there going, oh, there's Ash Playstead. That's unprofessional. I'm not going to do business with him. Like, you're not, it's not that. I haven't seen that. I've been doing it for 10 plus years. You have too, James. That's never happened. So, and then the confidence is attached to that. So the being real and consistent is a flip side of the coin of confidence, which are both produced through speaking about something that you're passionate about. Right? Your example of the interest rate. Don't talk about interest rates. Relate interest rates to a real life story of someone you worked with who you might have helped them with a consolidation loan to reduce their outgoing cash flow and what it meant in their life. That'll be a far better way to talk about interest rates than just to parrot off the data and leave it at that.
And tell that case study as if you're telling another friend about that friend, not as if you're telling a group of people, and you'll be golden. So I guess, you know, to wrap up this episode, Ash, like the message and the messenger, bit of a tongue twister, the message has to be real and relatable, or else it doesn't count and it doesn't really resonate with people. If it doesn't resonate, they don't follow you. They don't want to talk about you. They don't want to refer to you. It's kind of pointless. And the messenger, well, you can have something to say, but if you're not clear and confident in your delivery, then again, you know, it's going to be boring. So the easiest way, of course, is to have something to say and then to be yourself. You don't need to be a polished newsreader. Be yourself. So there's a lot to this, but hopefully that gives our listeners a little bit of inspiration about getting out there and engaging more.
100%. Yeah. It is a critical part of business now, is that social proof, that branding. Potentially it becomes part of lead generation ultimately, but you know, this is really good organic content. And everybody's got a voice and everybody's got a unique position that they can put out into their community to build a community. And as we said, make sure you engage. Don't just put content out there and then forget about it. Put content out there and have a strategy to engage. That's perhaps a whole nother episode that we can talk about. But yeah, for today, yep, be real, be confident, and that comes from being yourself.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ash. Listeners, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. It's a bit of a challenging one, I think, for a lot of brokers, but when you listen to this a couple of times and really get it and start putting yourself out there and practice and not worry so much about the results, that's where all the gold's going to come from. So take this on board, and like everything, it's just one piece of the puzzle. So, you know, knock on our door and ask us for some help. We can help you really get this stuff done right, and then we can do this stuff right. You can start growing your business and getting more results. So until next week, stay cool, Ash, you too, and we'll see you then.
Next week, James.
Bye, everybody.